My friends, thank you for coming. I'm so glad you're here. I need somebody to talk to. First mistake. I've been having bad thoughts. I can't sleep. It started with this one dream. There were doctors and nurses. There were all these doctors and nurses huddled around a gurney. But the doctors and nurses were gagged and they had their hands tied behind their backs. Then I realized I was at an autopsy because on the gurney was the dead body of the president, President Carter. And all around the room were these generals and admirals and FBI agents. The president sat up on the table. He looked me right in the eye.
America does not at the moment have a functioning democracy.
I noticed that my hands were bound like the doctor's, and it was hot, very, very hot. There was another man in the shadows. I couldn't see his face, but his voice was very clear.
The murder of the president is not a mystery.
But President Carter isn't murdered.
Any citizen willing to look can clearly see who killed President Kennedy.
When I looked back at the table, I saw it wasn't Carter. It was President Kennedy, and the back of his head was gone. Standing behind him was a black man. He reminded me of Martin Luther King. He reached out his hand and said,
The question now is, what will you do with that?
Do with what, I asked him. Then I woke up.
Which leads to the question, why would you do all of these things? Why would you, oh, I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong here. Let's try it again. What would you do with that?
You got it. Yeah.
Okay, which leads, okay, thanks for your patience. Which leads to the question, why would he do all these things? Why would he be afraid, for example, to take the drones from the IRA? Well, I've come to the conclusion that he's afraid.
Who the hell are you?
That's 27-year CIA veteran analyst Ray McGovern, the man who used to personally deliver the CIA's presidential daily briefings to George Bush Sr.
Really? Or am I still dreaming?
Everything you're about to hear that isn't a narration is a quote made by the character speaking or relayed by someone who was there. Statements have been edited or reordered to help tell the story.
And I know from a good friend who was at a small dinner party with progressive supporters that they asked him, why don't you do the things that you stood for? Obama turned sharply and said, don't you remember what happened to Martin Luther King?
He said that?
That's a quote.
In the last 50 years, there have been two major threats to life on our planet. The first, the nuclear arms race, was narrowly averted by President John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. The second, the ticking climate bomb on its short business-as-usual fuse has no solution in sight.
Elizabeth Woodworth, professor and author.
If JFK, MLK, and RFK were assassinated while promoting peace in the military economy, how far can Obama push for renewables in a military oil economy?
So I'm pretty convinced the president's afraid of the CIA. He's got 2 kids and he doesn't want to get killed.
Oh, come on. He's the President of the United States.
The mystery of President Kennedy's assassination has not been solved in the mainstream press. You need to read James Douglas's book, JFK and the Unspeakable, and then you need to reflect on Obama.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
A witness of a crime who just stands by, tends by that very fact to become an accomplice.
That's Thomas Merton, Travis Monk, and author.
How am I an accomplice to the Kennedy assassination?
Feminist Gloria Steinem.
The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Nobody is going to force me to do anything I don't think is in the best interest of this country.
That little Kennedy thought he was a god.
President John F. Kennedy and Allen Dulles, director of the CIA.
We're not going to plunge into an irresponsible action just because a fanatical fringe in this country puts so-called national pride above national reason.
Wait, what's going on?
In 1947, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, was created. They were supposed to gather intelligence for U.S. presidents about what was happening overseas. But in 1948, the CIA's role expanded.
Propaganda, economic warfare, sabotage, anti-sabotage, demolition, subversion.
That's from National Security Council Directive 10/.